Hi guys, welcome back to the Shannon Show. Hello if you're new. So today's video is going to be a review of a mini limited series, Self-Made, inspired by the life of Madam C.J Walker. So the series is basically a dramatised biography chronicling the extraordinary life of America's first black female millionaire and first female millionaire period. And I feel like what is even more extraordinary about this story is that Madam C.J Walker, also Sarah, which is her first name, I'm just going to go by Sarah for the purpose of this review, did all of this literally right out of slavery. Her parents were slaves and she still managed to run a successful business despite the obstacles that she faced in her life, being black and a woman on top of that. Before this series, I had never heard of Madam C.J Walker in terms of like historical figures that I was taught about. It was normally kind of centered towards Harriet Tubman. It was never really, women succeeding in the workplace, in schools and stuff like that. And even generally, when Black History Month comes along, whether it's the American Black History Month or the UK Black History Month, we have ours in October for those of you wondering. You never really hear about the business people. It's normally just the freedom fighters and the people who were fighting oppression. You never really hear about successful business people. So yeah, I feel like this was definitely an important story to retell. So in terms of what the film kind of touches on, obviously we see her. What I really like is that we see her in her element. Madame C.J. not as the black woman, not just as the black woman jumping over all of these obstacles. We see her as the boss bitch that she is. We see her as the businesswoman, which I personally enjoyed in the film because I feel like sometimes those kind of aspects get overlooked. What is quite interesting about the film is that it really highlights that business and the business of selling and marketing is really an art form. I used to do like temping work in beauty counters as well, and it really is an art to be able to finesse products onto people. And if you can see, my makeup isn't even that great, but the way I was finessed, it truly is an art that not everyone can master. But yeah, continuing on to the narrative, it highlights the beauty business, and also what I kind of feel like it highlights that people don't really address is that obviously the film highlights that hair is an important part of the black cultural experience. But it also touches on kind of insecurities being commodified and being a source of revenue for these beauty businesses, which I'll get into. So in terms of the selling points, obviously with the hair industry, black hair care is very important. Having black hair, having afro hair is also a cultural experience and a lifestyle as well. And in terms of in the beauty industry, specifically hair care, black women are one of the largest buying powers into that. Before it was relaxers, but now we are seeing more and more natural hair products and people pushing for natural hair and stuff like that. And that has now become a big business. In terms of the business selling point, Madame C.J. Walker's first initial point is that, black people need to take care of their hair needs to grow, they need to look respectable, and that everybody needs to come together to make their hair look good, because how one of us looks reflects on us all. And I do get that point. Like there is an element of that in today's society. We always see that, oh, you shouldn't do that, you're going to make black people look bad, even though it's just an individual. And I feel like it's the same with hair. Like there was a show that I was watching, there's a UK show called Love Island, and there was this whole big debate about one of the black contestants' weave, because I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't looking right, but people were saying that she needs to get it together because she's representing black people. And there's this whole collective community of we all need to be looking our best because we are already seen as other, and we are already seen as less than. But I feel like in terms of that message, I don't believe in that message personally. I do think it's a negative message to reinforce. But at the same time, that message sells because that message installs insecurity. You don't want to be seen as the black person with bad hair. You don't want to be seen as the black person that doesn't look presentable. So what are you going to do now? You are now going to adhere to these standards and make sure that you buy all of these products to maintain that. And that is how the business works. The business works off insecurity. And I feel like it kind of touches on that in the series as well. But what do you guys think? Do you feel like the boom in people now catering to black hair, and there being so many black hair companies, and it now being this sudden shift of black hair empowerment, is because they want to profit off our insecurities? Let me know what you think. I feel like even today, we're getting so many products, in terms of black hair, we're getting so many products pushed on us. Black hair products as well, often we see that they are a bit more expensive, a lot more expensive than, say, white hair products. So white hair products, you go into a store, you could probably go to your discount store and get a hair and shampoo, a decent hair and shampoo for £2. If you want a quality shampoo for afro hair, you could be looking for around £10. And I used to use Sheer Moisture, obviously 5-10 years ago, when it was like that big push of natural hair. Everyone was like, you need to use Sheer Moisture. Sheer Moisture is for us. This is going to make sure that your hair is the best that it could be. So I was spending £10 on shampoo, £10 on conditioner. Then I was thinking, do I need to buy the hair mask as well? Because this is when I was growing my hair out. Because this is when obviously I was growing my hair out and I was on my natural hair journey after I just chopped it. And I was like, okay, this is what I need to make my afro hair look presentable. I don't know if you can tell, but I have 4C hair. So as well as the afro, I wanted to make sure that you could, like, I had defined curls. So I was like, I need to get the mask. I need to get the leave-in conditioner. I need to get the other conditioner. I need to get the hair mask. I need to get all of this stuff for my hair that I just didn't need. And now I only use 3 products for my hair. When I was still growing my hair out, I just realized that I didn't really need all of these products, especially when I just accepted my hair type for what it was and stopped trying and mimic 4B or 4A curls. I just use 3 products, and I feel like that's all you really need. You only really need a shampoo, conditioner. Some people even just use conditioner and an oil to moisturize your hair, and I use castor oil, which is thick enough to moisture 4C hair for a significant amount of time. We see the argument again, well, our hair needs products, our hair needs all of these products. But does our hair really need products? Or is it just these corporations making money off of us that are telling us that we need all of these hair products? Let me know what you think. And also, I'd be interested to know how many products are in your hair care regime. And for those of you who are wondering what I use now, because obviously I don't use Sheer Moisture, especially after they changed their formula. I use Palmer's. It basically has just as much as the same chemicals as Sheer Moisture, but it's specifically for curly afro hair, and it works well and it's cheap. It's like £3. And usually when I go there, they have a deal, like a 3 for 2 deal, so I get 2 conditioners and a shampoo, so everything works out to like no more than £6. And I get a big old bottle of oil, which is like £8, and that has literally lasted me like a whole year. Yeah, you don't need to be spending so much on your hair care. Do not let these corporations and these businesses trick you into spending an unnecessary amount of money. But yeah, I'd also like to know how much is your hair care regime approximately? Yeah, I know I just went on a little rant there, but yeah, what do you guys think about these corporations? Do you feel like these corporations are really here for us and our black hair, or are they just here for our black money? Another key point that the film touches on is colorism and kind of light skin privilege, and how historically since slavery, light skinned women or mixed race women have been the standard of beauty in the black community. Do I still think it is now? I do think it is still. We have had a lot of progress with the whole Black Girl Magic movement. Definitely a lot more love online for dark skinned women or darker skinned black women. So I think we've definitely made progress, but I still feel like they are seen as a standard. I'm Congolese, and Congolese people are notorious for bleaching their skin, and it is still very rife in the community of people valuing lighter skinned women above darker skinned women, and people wanting to put chemicals on their skin to retain that beauty standard. Obviously, people always say, European standards of beauty, and I feel like when people say that, I always say European standards of beauty with an asterisk, because I feel like black people are not trying to look white. They're trying to achieve the European standard of blackness, which is the mixed race child. I feel like we're moving towards a more of a progressive thing. I still feel like sometimes it does feel a little bit forced. I feel like we are moving in the right direction of, everybody realizing that everyone, regardless of their skin tone, is beautiful in their own right. Also, with an extension of colorism, there is kind of, I don't know if it's actually a word, I think it's still considered colorism, but texturism. So obviously with the standard of beauty being, light skin, mixed race, the hair type has also been idolized in the community as well. From what I've seen, the stereotypical type of good hair in the black community is long hair, but as well as long hair, there is 3C hair, which is the typical kind of curly hair that you often see with mixed race kids. For those of you who don't know what 3C hair is. Obviously, Sarah, she has a competitor called Addy, and her selling point is to say that if you buy this hair product that your hair is going to look like me, you are going to look like me. And that people would buy into that idea that if they use this hair product, that their hair will suddenly turn into 3C hair, and that they will be able to aspire to unattainable, they will be able to feel prettier, and their hair is going to look more prettier, and they're going to get more attention, going to be able to be seen as pretty in society. They're going to be able to secure that man. So I feel like with the natural hair movement, I feel like there's still elements of that, especially with the whole, defining curls, curl rods, trying to make your hair imitate different curl types. Especially with the whole twist out. There was a point where I tried to twist my hair out so it looked like 4A, 3C. And then I was just like, girl, I just got to accept my hair for what it is. It's perfect the way it is. I was made this way. Just embrace it. But I still feel like people still try and attain that. And I feel like there is kind of praise for less coilier hair types. On the opposite spectrum, 4C hair has also become a trend as well. We're seeing more and more people claiming that their hair is 4C when it's not, because they know that it's marketable. Madam C.J, she does kind of hold firm that you don't need to be light skin or mixed race or high yellow to be considered beautiful or to feel beautiful. And I feel like that marketing actually helped her out, because it's just like people had enough of chasing this unattainable standard of beauty. So I feel like that as well can be quite marketable, which I thought was quite an interesting element within the story. So another thing that the film touches on is sexism. Sarah had to go through as a black woman in the early 1900s trying to start a business, and the sexism from investors and business partners who were typically men, as well as her husband as well, who's kind of intimidated by her success and the fact that she only has time for her business. She doesn't have time to cook or clean for him and stuff like that, even though she is the breadwinner in the house. I think there's an element of he likes to have a successful wife, but he doesn't like that she's more successful than him. And relating to real life, I think that could be applicable to real life. You see it again. People are saying, well, we want you to get your own money, and we want you to, but don't get more money than me. Be educated, but we don't want you to be doing better than us. Some people might not want to admit it because they feel like a woman's place should be at their man's side. I see a lot, especially with these fake 50-50 men that claim that they're about the 50-50 life, but not really. They want a successful woman, but they also want her to cook and clean. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense in my opinion, and it's definitely not something I will ever be participating in. In the black community, especially with black men, when they talk about black issues, they're either talking about black men's issues, or they're talking about issues as a whole. I feel like the elephant in the room with black men is that black men are still men, and therefore oppressors of women, and therefore black women's oppressors on a systemic level, on a societal level. And they don't ever really want to address that. And usually in films, they usually skirt around the issue of sexism within the black community. They don't want to ruffle any feathers. But I feel like this series addressed it very well, hit the nail on the head. People, I'd be interested to hear what you think about the issue of sexism in the black community. Is it an issue? Do you think it's an issue? Do you think it's a non-issue? Or do you feel like it's something that needs to be addressed? And it also kind of touches on, you know, interactions with women as well, jealousy, competitiveness between black women in business. I'm not really sure where that came from, because obviously it was between three key people, Sarah, Addie and Dora, and obviously the difference between them is that Dora and Addie are mixed race / light skin, and Madame and Sarah is dark skinned. So I'm not really sure if that's why they got into it, because they kind of felt like, how dare she do better, how dare we have light skin privilege and not be doing as good as her, or whether it was a thing where there was some internalized sexism going on, because would they have done that to a man? I'm not sure if they would have. Those of you who watched it, what did you kind of think about that whole situation? Why do you think they were going so hard with each other? Now, obviously, with that whole situation, obviously, there's a key thing that happens in the story. For those of you who watched it, I'm not going to spoil it, but obviously, there's a key incident between Sarah and Addie where there is some key information that gets revealed. That reveals that Sarah really is a ruthless businesswoman. Now, do you think like Sarah was in the wrong in that situation? Did you think that Sarah did Addie wrong and that Addie had a right to go off on her? Or do you feel like all is fair in business? Like Sarah said, she tried to be partners with Addie. Addie thought that she was nothing and she couldn't do anything for her. She went out and proved her wrong. We've seen kind of like the same situation in real life. I think all is fair in business. Obviously, she tried to reach out to Addie. Addie wasn't trying to hear it, so you're lost, sweetie. You know, I struggled to feel sorry for Addie, to be honest. And then obviously, finally, there was this whole storyline with obviously Sarah. She has this successful business, and she wants to make a deal with a drugstore company. And the workers are obviously not happy with it because some of them are now going to be put out of a job. So it all basically say if she goes ahead with the drugstore deal, with the lucrative drugstore deal, they're all going to quit, and she has to make a decision of who is she going to pick. Is she going to pick her workers, or is she going to pick her drugstore deal, which will probably make her a lot of money? So there's a kind of moral dilemma there in terms of, especially when you are, you know, a small business and a black-owned business. I think we see it time and time and again of people, there being disagreements of, you know, black businesses selling out. Even in the film, even though she was a successful millionaire, if she wanted to make more money, she'd have to adhere to these board of investors who were all white men. They're the gatekeepers, and they, you know, the glass ceiling is still there. If we were to apply that in real life, what should people do? Should they stick with their roots, even though it means that they're going to be making less money? Or should they go where the money is, even if that means selling out, or even if that means losing their full fan base that helped prop them up in the beginning? What do you guys think? Do you think that would be selling out? What do you guys think? I think you should do what's best for your business. I think what would be selling out for me is the sheer moisture situation, where they literally adjusted their formula so that white people could use it, which means that people with thicker hair that needed the original formula couldn't use it anymore. It wouldn't work as well. I think that would be selling out, rather than now expanding to a drugstore business and stuff like that. But what do you guys think about that whole situation at the end, for those of you who had watched it? And do you think Sarah made the right decision? One interesting development was probably the revelation that her daughter was gay. Obviously, with the information that I've seen, like on Wikipedia and stuff, it doesn't really mention anything about her daughter's sexuality. But in the series, it alleges that she was basically living a double life. Now, if you see her actual Wikipedia, her Wikipedia says that she married 3 times and she had an adopted daughter, but she didn't ever bore children. And obviously, what do you need to bore children? You need to have sex. So, I mean, it could be plausible, like, you know, being a black woman in the early 1900s and not having kids, that is a bit unheard of, especially when you are from a rich family. Unheard of. Obviously, it's based on a book by her great granddaughter from her adopted daughter. I'm not sure what the book actually alleges, but what do you guys think about that inclusion? Do you think maybe they're trying to spice it up a bit, or do you feel like they would only put it in there if there was like a credible source? I think looking at her Wikipedia, it makes sense. In the film, it does allege that the mother knew, but she, as she was dying, she kind of just accepted it. I'd like to think that was true, but in the 19th centuries, I'm not sure if she would have. I'm not sure. I hope that she did. It was a nice moment in the film when she finally did accept and stopped trying to force her to marry all of these people. I'm not 100% if Sarah would have accepted that. But what do you guys think? In terms of the acting, I think obviously Octavia as Sarah, Madam C.J Walker, absolutely amazing. Definitely did Sarah justice. Standout role. I don't think I've seen a role where Octavia Spencer was ever rubbish. Everyone else is pretty much decent. Obviously, we've got some well-known names in there. We've got Blair Underwood in there. We've got Tiffany Haddish in there. And we've got Garrett Morris in there. But what I will say is that obviously Tiffany plays the daughter, Aaliyah. And Tiffany cannot do serious / sad roles. She can't. I feel like comedy is her lane. I've watched so many comedy films with her and she's always amazing in them. Always funny. I feel like in the comedic elements of this, she was in her element. But when she was meant to be upset, or serious or conflicted, it was below average. I wouldn't say bad, but it was below average. Definitely needs some work there if she's going to take on more serious roles. I personally think she's more suitable for comic relief roles. But what do you guys think of Tiffany Haddish's performance? Do you feel like she did okay? Do you think she did it was a little bit suspect? What do you guys think? Overall, I enjoyed the story. It was very upbeat, easy to follow, easy to binge. I think the production was done I feel like elements of productions were done quite well, such as costume design, set design. You felt like you were in the 1900s. But one thing that really bothered me, the soundtrack / score. I don't even think there is really much of a score. Most of it was kind of the soundtrack. The soundtrack annoyed the hell out of me. I don't know why. I feel like these past three years, I've come to really appreciate soundtracks and scores because they can really add such value to a film. And I feel like it was a bit discombobulating having a series set in the early 19,000s and then having these modern songs at the time of them. Obviously, I get they're making a point. All of the singers were black female singers. All of the artists included in the soundtrack were black female artists. But I feel like they should have just commissioned black female artists to make songs that fit the times. I feel like that would have improved the series a lot because I feel like when the modern day music was when the present day music was playing, it kind of took you out of where they were. It was just kind of just like, oh, I'm watching something on Netflix rather than being in the story, if you get what I mean. I think the soundtrack was a mistake in my opinion, and I would have liked more of a developed score. And it's also directed by Cassie Lemons, who recently directed Harriet, which is another kind of race-related film. So she's been on a roll. Another thing that I did not like was some of the edits, especially when they were kind of intertwining. Obviously, it was a kind of, she was determined, obviously when she was making her way up, making lots of money, business was booming. When she'd come into obstacles, sometimes they'd have this thing where she'd be looking at herself when she was living like the Povo life, washing, saying like basically she couldn't go back to that life. And also kind of doubts and delusions that were coming up as kind of fantasies. Some of the editing with that was like a bit choppy and jarring, and it really annoyed me. There should have been at least a smoother edit, or at least a different type of depiction of these doubts. Maybe even just a look in the mirror like get yourself together would have been fine. I wasn't really a fan of these fantasies. But yeah, I think overall they did Madam C.J Walker Justice. I definitely went to her Wikipedia page after, and what's interesting is I don't think they sell their hair products anymore, or they don't sell them in the UK. But what I found quite interesting is that they released a new state of hair products in 2016, but it was marketed not towards like Afro hair, it was marketed towards all hair types, which I thought was quite interesting. It was giving me very sheer moisture vibes. I'm not sure if Madam C.J Walker would have supported that, but anyway. Yeah, like I said, I think they did the story justice. It was very upbeat, it was very fun, easy to watch. I thought it was going to be a different tone, a different type of film. I would recommend going to go watch it, and I think taking everything into account, I think overall I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. But yeah, for those of you who haven't watched it, let me know if this is something that you are interested in watching. For those of you who have watched it, let me know what you thought of it, and let me know what you thought of this review. And also, if you have watched it, let me know what you would rate it out of 5. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and if you have, don't forget to put your notification bell on so you'll know when the next review is dropping. Till next time, guys, bye.